It is hard to accept the deterioration changes in a parent or a spouse, but it is important and sometimes difficult to accept them for where they are in their own reality. Tell me, does it really matter if your loved one doesn't know how old they are or what today's date is? Nothing you can do will ever help the person remember. What you want them to know is that you love them, support them, and accept them for who they are today. Due to cognitive impairment, your loved one may not understand your words, but a kind, calm voice and as much physical touch as they feel comfortable with lets them know how you care for them. You also need to make sure that you take care of yourself.
When someone is ill, they can be quite demanding because they need help. But that doesn't really mean that you're not entitled to your own feelings and your own emotions and to feel like you're banging your head against the wall. I can't get any place. I can't possibly get through another day.
Frustration, I think, is probably the biggest thing that hits anybody who's a caregiver. At least it hit me big time. Because you're working and you're trying to do this and that. And I noticed that I was taking away from my wife her ability to do things for herself. I was robbing her of her individuality, and she was a very individual person, a very outgoing person. She was the spark in the family, if you will. And I'm robbing, one at a time, her capabilities, and that really was tough to do.
You know, people who are nurses and in the hospitals, they work one shift. If you're a caregiver in the home, you're working all three. That's not possible. You can't do that forever and ever. You must have a life of your own.
Every caregiving situation is very difficult. But you know, the people that have gone through it, I find, gain strength. They gain courage. And things in life take on a total different perspective. And I think it's a good perspective. I think it's one that'll carry them through the rest of their lives with a measure of confidence that they would have never gotten otherwise.
The best message that I could give a caregiver is that they're also aging, and we have to take care of ourselves throughout our lifespan. They have to look at all 6 dimensions of wellness and realize that they won't be useful to anyone if they don't take care of themselves first.
As a caregiver, planning for your and your loved one's future health care needs is never easy, and there are special concerns if you live in another state or another country.
I think it's particularly difficult for family members who live a distance from their relatives to be sure that things are going the way they hope they would go with the medical care or the health plan. And when that is a challenge, and it's a challenge for the family and it's a challenge for the doctor. Once again, I think it's real important that the doctor recognize that it's important to communicate with the family. I think it's important for the family to make reasonable efforts to communicate with the doctor.
To begin those discussions, talk to your loved one and let him or her know that you are concerned and feel it's important to be able to discuss his or her care with their physician. Let your loved one know that you are not taking over her care or spying on her. It's important that you stress you want to support her decisions and help improve her care. If the loved one agrees, he or she will need to sign a medical release form, a document that allows the doctor to share medical information with you. If you have a durable power of attorney, a legal document that names you as the person authorized to make medical decisions for your loved one, make sure the physician has a notarized copy of that document.
The interaction with the physician for, in my case, my father, it's a difficult situation because your roles are being reversed. You're now taking care of your parent. And of course, you feel as if you want to ask every question that's necessary to understand conditions and what may happen and consequences and so on. It's a fine line of crossing to being somewhat overbearing and intrusive in another person's medical care. You take it a day at a time. And that if it seems that if your relative is not understanding exactly what's happening or what the consequences are, then it's important that you're there as an advocate to step in and say, well, I don't quite understand that, doctor. Would you explain that a little more thoroughly and so on, so that you really do understand what's going on.
And often a good social worker can help be an intermediary and help bring a family or a group together to talk about these issues if everybody's a little uncomfortable doing it themselves.
While it may seem uncomfortable, sharing this process now and letting everyone in the family, along with your doctor, know your wishes will help avoid the frustration and conflicts that may happen in a medical crisis.
One message that I would give to caregivers is that it's so incredibly important for you to consider caregiving for yourself. We often see that after a long term of caregiving, that the caregiver may end up being in worse physical shape than the person they're caring for. That's both physically and mentally. And it's extremely important for the person to make sure that they have time for themselves and for other members of the family, that they take time to pamper themselves.
Get active. Don't sit at home. I know there's a grieving process we all go through when something like this happens. But once you do that, you have to get active and take control, and you feel much better about yourself and what you're doing.